Today is Wednesday, September 27th. What to know about tonight's GOP presidential debate and another more unusual debate planned for later this year. And why a judge decided former President Trump should not be doing business in New York and may never again. Also, the first state in the U.S. to issue its own tax on guns and ammunition. Plus, why the federal government is suing Amazon, which company is shutting down their popular podcast app. And Taylor Swift does it again, how her appearance at an NFL game sent jersey sales of a certain player surging. Those stories and more news to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Former President Trump and his company may never again be able to do business in New York, where Trump built his real estate empire for several decades, dating back to the 1970s. This week, a judge ruled that Trump and his family committed fraud by exaggerating the value of their wealth and other facts about their business, all to get good terms on loans and insurance deals. This ruling came as part of the civil fraud case New York's Attorney General has been pursuing. The full case is going to trial next week, where the New York AG will try to force Trump to pay back the state hundreds of millions of dollars in penalties. But already this week, a judge handed the AG a win and canceled the New York business licenses tied to the Trump organization, as well as any other New York-based business run by the Trump family. Trump responded on Truth Social last night, calling the judge deranged and the AG completely biased and corrupt. He says none of the allegations are true, that they're politically motivated, and he plans to appeal the latest decision. Specifically, his lawyers have said valuations are subjective and disagreements don't equal fraud. They'll keep fighting the rest of the case in court next week. The second GOP presidential debate is happening tonight. Once again, Trump is not going to be on the stage. Instead, he's going to Michigan to hold a rally for striking auto workers, as we talked about more yesterday. But 7 others are going to be debating. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, former Vice President Mike Pence, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. The debate is happening at 9 p.m. Eastern on the Fox Business Network and online on Rumble. By the way, Fox News also announced this week another debate happening in November between 2 of the nation's best-known political leaders. But this one is highly unusual, since the 2 politicians going head-to-head are not actually running for the same office. Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis and California's Governor Gavin Newsom are facing off in what Fox is calling a red versus blue state debate. Fox says it will be a way for Americans to hear about everyday issues and opposite governing philosophies. That debate is going to air on Sean Hannity's show on November 30th. This week, California became the first state in the U.S. to issue its own tax on guns and ammunition. Governor Newsom signed the measure into law yesterday. And with that, the state will start collecting an 11% tax on retail sales of guns, gun parts, and ammunition starting next July. The money will be used for gun violence prevention programs and school security improvements. And it's on top of the federal taxes on guns and ammunition. So together, this new state tax doubles the tax on guns and ammunition in California. Pro-gun rights groups have called it unconstitutional and have promised to challenge the new law in court. Though it did get at least a 2/3 majority in both chambers of the California state legislature during its last session. And now supporters are urging other states to follow California's lead. Well, lawmakers on Capitol Hill are floating another option to try to keep the government running past this week. Remember, the deadline to avoid the government shutting down is the end of the month, so this Saturday. Well, now the Senate rolled out bipartisan legislation to keep the government funded until at least November. It keeps funding at current levels and adds about $6 billion apiece for Ukraine aid and U.S. disaster relief. It passed a procedural vote already last night, and Senate leaders from both parties have urged other senators to keep moving it forward, saying otherwise a shutdown would hurt the country. But it's not clear if it will get that same kind of support in the House. Some House Republicans have pushed for much lower funding levels without any more aid for Ukraine. Plus, they want to add more strict border security measures. And they've said they'll only vote for long-term solutions, not short-term fixes. So, for now, the countdown continues. Millions more American students are now eligible for free meals at schools. The USDA announced it's expanding free breakfast and lunches to about 3,000 more school districts, covering more than 5 million kids. The federal government will now cover the costs at schools where 25% of families take part in income-based federal assistance programs like food stamps. The qualifying threshold used to be 40%. To be clear, all students at the schools where this will happen will automatically get free meals regardless of household income. Kids at other schools can also get free or reduced price meals if their families fill out individual applications. So some critics say that should be the case everywhere, since they say money should not be spent on kids who don't actually need it. Though supporters of the new plan say when there are fewer administrative burdens like applications, it helps make sure no children go hungry. And making free meals universal could lower the social stigma for kids who do need them. 8 states already have laws that make meals free for kids in all public schools. More news is still coming up, but first, support for today's episode comes from Trust and Will. A lot has changed for me over the last couple of years. I had a kid, and now I'm in the process of getting a house. So on one hand, I want to protect our assets and secure the future for our family. On the other hand, we've had a lot of new expenses lately. And traditional estate planning can cost thousands of dollars, while one-size-fits-all templates may not capture all the important details of the life we built. With Trust and Will, though, you can protect your legacy from the comfort of your home, starting at just $159. My husband and I recently crafted our will using Trust and Will, and we were really pleasantly surprised at how simple it all is, how quickly we were able to complete it, and that it guided us through things we may not have thought about on our own. And it's state-specific and customized to your needs with bank-level encryption. So gain peace of mind today with Trust and Will. Get 10% off plus free shipping of your estate plan documents by visiting trustandwill.com/newsworthy. That's 10% off and free shipping at trustandwill.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to the news. So there's a dilemma in the White House about what to do with the Biden family pets. President Biden's dog, Commander, bit another Secret Service agent this week. That's at least the 11th time the dog bit an officer. And Commander is not the first Biden dog to have issues like this. The Biden family had to send their last dog, Major, to live with friends over another series of biting incidents. Though for now, Commander is staying put. A spokesperson for First Lady Jill Biden put out a statement that says the first family will keep working with the dog to help it handle the stressful environment of the White House. The U.S. government has sued the most popular online store in the world in a pivotal case that could change the way Americans shop. The FTC and 17 states are now accusing Amazon of running a monopoly over online retail. Well, this lawsuit says Amazon punishes sellers for offering lower prices elsewhere on the internet and pressures them into paying for Amazon's delivery network. All the while, it says Amazon boosts its own products and peppers its search results with ads. The lawsuit says altogether, these tactics make it impossible for rivals to compete, and that it's meant higher prices and a worse shopping experience for users. So the FTC is raising the possibility of changing up Amazon's company structure. In response, Amazon's lawyers say the FTC is, quote, wrong on the facts and the law. They say if the FTC gets its way, it would just mean fewer products to choose from, higher prices, slower deliveries for customers, and fewer options for small businesses. This case is expected to play out in court over several years. It's official now. Hollywood screenwriters are headed back to work today for the first time in nearly 5 months. The Writers Guild of America's board unanimously voted yesterday to affirm the strike-ending deal we told you about earlier this week. And with that, the strike formally ended at midnight. But just as the Hollywood writers' strike comes to an end, striking actors voted for the option to expand their walkout yesterday to include the video game market, too. So big gaming studios are now facing pressure to make deals with performers who provide video game voices, stunts, and more. Talks with the studios are happening now. Heads up, a popular app for listening to podcasts is shutting down. Google Podcasts will be discontinued next year. And that's because Google is instead hoping everyone will use YouTube Music. Google actually launched the ability for people to listen to podcasts in YouTube Music already a few months ago. And YouTube says next year it will add even more improvements to YouTube Music. So with that, Google Podcasts will go away. If you're listening to this podcast on Google Podcasts, don't worry, we are available on YouTube Music already, as well as many other audio apps like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Overcast, Pocket Cast, CastBox, and more. Pop star Taylor Swift has brought her magic touch to the Kansas City Chiefs NFL team, particularly one of their star players, Travis Kelce. Swift watched a Chiefs game over the weekend from a suite at Kansas City's Arrowhead Stadium as rumors swirled over her relationship with Kelce. She was sitting next to his mother and left with him after the game, all of which was enough for fans to get even more interested in their rumored romance. Well, ever since, the demand for Chiefs gear has skyrocketed. In just 24 hours, sales for Kelce jerseys went up 400%, and Kelce himself got about 300,000 new Instagram followers. That's even a bigger increase than what we saw after winning last year's Super Bowl. By the way, a new TikTok teaser for the NFL Stars podcast, New Heights, hints that Kelce and his brother will be talking about all of this in a new episode that drops today. So that's it for the main news today. So now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, this podcast is sponsored by Nutrafol. Did you know that hair thinning will happen to about 1 in 2 women? Yeah, about half of women. So if it's something you've ever dealt with, you're not alone. It's actually normal. And Nutrafol helps women address it from within with science-backed supplements. As in, a clinical study showed 86% of women reported improved hair growth after taking Nutrafol Women's Hair Growth Supplement for 6 months. No wonder it's actually the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement. In fact, my own dermatologist recommended it a while back. I was a few months postpartum, and all the hormone changes, stress, and whatever else was taking a toll on my hair. So I took Nutrafol postpartum and really noticed improved hair growth and just healthier, shinier hair. And there's a formula for everyone here, from postpartum to menopause to plant-based lifestyles and more. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month's subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code Newsworthy. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol, Nutrafol.com with the promo code Newsworthy. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code Newsworthy. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday. American employers are now bracing for the largest increase in health insurance costs in a decade. Benefits consultants from Mercer, Aon, and Willis Towers Watson say companies' costs will go up by a range of 5.5% to 8.5% next year. They blame a few different things like inflation, soaring demand for costly weight loss drugs, and wider availability of high-priced gene therapies. But since the labor market is still tight, many companies are hesitant to pass along the cost to employees or to cut back on benefits. Now, as Axios reports, employers are instead retooling their benefits, aiming to only provide what workers really need. So what are their priorities? Well, in a recent Mercer survey of large employers, most identified mental health resources as one of their most valued benefits. Also, the National Alliance of Healthcare Purchaser Coalitions says there's a lot of focus on supporting women through menopause. But companies are also looking for ways to keep costs down. For example, consultants say companies and insurers will be identifying less expensive hospital networks, and there will be more scrutiny of coverage for expensive therapies. All right, thank you so much for listening today. We'll be back with another news roundup tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.